Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I hope that every of you is doing well by the grace of the Almighty. Please stay home and stay safe. Just as an experiment, I have decided to come live to understand how many of you can join me live so that we can decide whether we can continue having this enterprise or attempt or not. In this session, we will talk about syntax and also syntactic analysis for the course English 3113, third year, first semester, and I hope that most of you can join, and please comment so that I can understand whether you are having any problem or not, and I can give you feedback. So let's start. In our previous class, we did morphology, and also I gave you some ideas about the levels of linguistics. And we found that there are 6 levels of linguistics: phonetics, phonology, morphology, syntax, semantics, and pragmatics. The first two, phonetics and phonology, deal with the sounds of language. In phonetics, we deal with or we discuss sound, and if in phonology we talk about the representation of sounds in the form of letters. And morphology and syntax, they discuss, or they are constituents of structure. We already understand that in morphology we did it, that in morphology there is a discussion regarding the form and structure of the words, and syntax is just one level up the morphology. So if morphology deals with words, syntax deals with sentences. Morphology deals with structures and formation and different rules of formation of words, how we can combine morphemes to form words, meaningful words, of course. In syntax, we have different morphemes or words combined together to get a meaningful sentence and to convey some information, following the rules of any particular language. Lastly, semantics and pragmatics, they deal with meaning. Let us have a definition of syntax. In Latin, syn, S-Y-N, it was derived from the Greek word sun, which means together, and tax in Greek language means to put in order. So we have two different aspects of syntax. One is putting together, but those parts should be put together in order. So syntax means to put elements of grammar together and in order. So in sentences we have clauses, or clauses can also be called sentences, and in clauses also we have phrases, and in phrases we have words, and also we have different classes of words. So all these elements, different classes of words like noun, adjective, verb, adverb, then clauses, and then how to combine these words or classes of words or parts of speech or clauses to form sentences. So syntax provides descriptive rules about how language works. So how these elements are put together and how we can get meaning out of it. And the rules are described in syntax. So it is a study of how words combine to form sentences and the rules that govern the formation of sentences. So there is a hierarchical order: sentences, then we have clauses, then we have phrases, and then we have words, and also we can divide them, these words, into morphemes. It is not that these words or morphemes or phrases or clauses are put together in sentences in an haphazard way, but we should follow some rules. So this arrangement follows some rules. So syntax deals with those rules as well. So syntax not only gives us forms and structures of sentence, it also deals with the relationship between parts of sentence structure. So we have a noun and an adjective and an adverb, or we have a subject and a verb and a predicate, or some other phrases or clauses. And syntax shows relationship between these parts, how one part is related to another. And also syntax gives us the rules which determines their role, the role of a verb, the role of a predicate, the role of a subject. So we can define syntax as a principle of construction and arrangement made of derivation and process and inflection of words into a variation of bigger construction. So from smaller construction, smaller units, grammatical units, we have larger units, finally we have sentences. So we can define finally syntax as syntax has to do with how words are put together to build phrases, with how phrases are put together to build clauses or bigger phrases, and with how clauses are put together to build sentences. One of the main roles of syntax is to analyze the structure of the sentence in order to discover the hidden meanings. Consider the following sentences. I can see a man with a telescope. I can the can with a cancer or canner. He said that man used was wrong. Rice I regularly eating. So, of the sentences, which are grammatically correct and which one or ones make sense? And what about meaning? How do we get meaning out of these sentences? Do you consider these sentences as English? If not, why? It means that there are some rules which we need to follow and we must follow to make English language work and to convey something, some message or meaning through English. So that is why you have to follow the rules or principles, and then following the principles you should understand as well as you should form the sentences accordingly. So you see some elements there like subject and verb and some other elements, and also some disorganized elements. Even I say rice I regularly eating, this is not grammatically correct, and you know why. We know why this sentence is not correct because we know syntax. We have the knowledge of syntax in our mind. So from reality also we get the idea of syntax or syntactic rules. But remember, though this sentence is a wrong sentence, an incorrect one, grammatically not correct, still you can have a meaning out of it. Why or how? Because there is a deep structure, there is a hidden meaning. But that hidden meaning may not always work if you all the time you follow incorrect structure. Spoken and written languages have some differences in case of syntax. In spoken English or in spoken language, we ignore standard structure rules. But in written language, there is no way of avoiding standard rules. That is why we need to have information and knowledge of syntax. So why should we study syntax? We have already got some ideas. Syntax enables us to analyze the structure of English sentences in a systematic and explicit way. And one important goal of teaching English syntax is to enhance understanding of the structure of English in a systematic and scientific way, to enable human beings to compose and convey complex messages, differentiate between nonsensical and non-grammatical sentences. This is an important aspect of syntax, grammaticality. A sentence should be grammatical. It means that all the elements should be there, and all the relationship between or among the elements should be logical. For example, you can have sentences like this: colorless green ideas sleep furiously. There is no problem with the structure of the sentence. Colorless green ideas, this is subject, and then you have a verb, sleep, and furiously is adverb. So everything is okay with this structure of this sentence. But do we use sentence like this, or does sentences like this mean anything? Another sentence: run boy the quickly to dog home the. So here you have all the elements but not organized or put in order. So this is not a grammatical sentence. And you can have some nonsensical sentence like this. Okay, we can produce infinite number of sentences. Everybody, regarding the use of mother tongue, we can use or we can produce limitless number of sentences. But did we learn in our childhood all the structures separately? And those who are not literate, who have never gone to school, say Eric Shapular or say an illiterate person, even he or she can understand which sentence is grammatically correct or not. How can they understand? This ability is innate, inborn in human beings, which Noam Chomsky has called UG or universal grammar. So, in our childhood, or in our life even, we do not learn all the structures, but we can use many structures which we have never been taught or which we have never learned consciously. How can I do this? That is, we can transform one structure from another. For example, say, I have a cat. And instead of I, we know that I here is a subject, and we know that instead of I, any noun or noun phrase or noun clause can be made function as subject. So you can say, my friend's father has a cat. So instead of I, you have my friend's father. You have a noun phrase here. But you have here a new sentence. So this is the quality of the generative aspect of syntax. If we understand syntax, we can easily understand how a second language learner or a foreign language learner learns his or her language. And as teachers, we can be benefited and we can help our students to learn a second language in a better way. So finally we can say that syntax is a fundamental level of linguistics that studies sentence construction, helps us to understand and apply rules for framing correct sentences. Syntactic analysis is an important aspect of the knowledge of syntax. Through syntactic analysis, we can determine the relevant components of a sentence, and also we can describe those parts grammatically. And a sentence has a number of parts or components. Here we will call them as constituents. And syntactic analysis has got two related functions or tasks. First one is we can break down the sentences into its constituents. That is, first we have a sentence, then we can the sentence can be broken down into clauses, and then clauses can be, or clause can be broken down into phrases, from phrase to words, and even words to morpheme. So having the components or constituents is not enough. We can also label each constituent, each part, stating what type or form of constituent it is, and also what grammatical function it has. I'll give you examples. Here we have a sentence. You have only one sentence. The snake killed the rat and it swallowed it. Here you have two clauses. The snake killed the rat and it swallowed it. So you have sentence 2 and sentence 3. Indeed, these are two clauses. And you have a coordinator, coordinating conjunction, and so consider it as a sentence. So in sentence 2, that is first clause, clause 1, you have a noun phrase as subject, and you have a verb phrase. So you are labeling the words. And then NP, that is noun phrase or subject, is broken down into its components. Here in this noun phrase we have a determiner and a noun. And in verb phrase you have a verb killed, past participle of the verb kill, and again you have a NP. So verb phrase consists of a verb and another noun phrase. And again this noun phrase has got two components, the and rat. In the same way, in the third sentence or in the second clause, you have one NP and you have a VP, that is verb phrase. Here you have as NP only one noun, it, and you have a verb and an NP in the verb phrase. And also here NP, noun phrase, consists of only a noun, it. So we have got here, or we have reached here at the word level. We haven't narrowed down to morpheme level. So in this example you see that we have labeled the words like determiner, noun, verb, and also we have got sentence, clauses, and then narrowed or narrower components. We can also represent sentence structures using bracketing. Indeed, I have copied it from somewhere else due to shortage of time. You can use bracketing. For example, at first level you have the whole sentence, and in the second level you have got the clause level. The snake killed the rat and it swallowed it or swallowed it. At third level you have got the phrases, and we have used here brackets. So for sentence level we have used only one bracket. For clause level we have used two brackets, and at third level also we have got another bracket, and in the fourth level also we have got some brackets to understand which elements or components of this sentence are related to, how they are related to each other, and what function they act as well, or what function they have as well. So you have here the snake killed the rat and swallowed it, and you can understand from this bracketing which parts are different and what relationship is there between the elements. You can also go for labeled bracketing. For example, at first level you have a sentence, so you have a sentence 1, and then the sentence 1 is divided into two sentences, that is two clauses here, sentence 2 and sentence 3. Then you have divided the sentence 2 into its components like NP and VP, and you have got the components themselves here, and then these elements are also broken down into narrowed or further elements. So through this label bracketing or T-diagram is an important aspect of syntax. We will discuss it in our next session. We can show how these explicitly show indeed how these elements are related to each other and what function they do, and we can understand the principles lying behind them. Okay, so this is all about the definition of syntax, and I hope that you have understood them. Okay, now I will have a second section in this session, which is syntactic processes. So now you have got understanding of syntax and what things are there and what it deals with. So I have already told you that we learn only a few structures, but from these few structures we can generate numerous infinite number of sentences. So there are some processes for transforming one structure into another, or there are some processes to generate one structure from a known structure, a new structure from a known structure, which is called generative aspect of syntax. To understand this aspect better, we need to understand the levels of structures. There are two levels of structure, deep structure and surface structure. I am just giving you a view of deep structure and surface structure. We will discuss it separately because it demands a separate discussion. We know that there are some specific structure. For example, for being an English sentence, you have to have a subject at the beginning and then you have a verb. But do we always have this construction or structure all the time? For example, I go. Here you have a subject and go as a verb. But from this structure, this is the basic structure. But you can generate another structure from this one. For example, you can say only go. And we all know that even you say only go, it consists of only one verb? No. It has a subject in front of it, but we do not use it, we do not pronounce it because of the pattern of imperative sentence. So you have a structure. You understand that go means you go. So here the transformed generated one, that is go, you have only one verb. It is called a surface structure, but underneath you understand that there is a subject in front of it. So that structure, so go does not have, this sentence does not have only one verb as its component, but it has two components, subject and verb. So subject and verb is the deep structure, but is not clearly presented on the surface. But on the surface you understand that there is only one verb, so that is called surface structure. That's what we can see. But what we can understand from a structure lying behind it or underneath it is called deep structure. Hope that you have understood. So syntactic processes deal with the manners and means of connecting linguistic components, and this idea of rules of transforming a structure from one type into another for understanding different patterns which underlie sentences. In this slide, syntactic processes is not prepared by me. Every year, students, you present your slides, and this is one of the slides that last year the students presented, and I found it very useful. That is why I am using it. So there are 4 types of syntactic processes. The first one is recursion, recurring, which is of generative aspect. Then we have movement, which functions through transformation. Then you can have conjoining and embedding, where we combine sentences or clauses. Let us have a look at all of them separately. The first one is recursion. Recursion refers to reoccurrence. When a constituent which has been rewritten by being used to the left of the rewritten symbol is used in the same or in a later rule to right of the rewritten symbol, the rule takes on a property called recursion. Through the recursion process, the same rules may be reapplied, indicating many times with a single derivation. For example, the old man. Here you have a structure, the old man. You have a determiner, you have an adjective and a noun, and this is a noun phrase. And following this phrase, we know that in noun phrase you have a determiner, and then you have an adjective, and then a noun. As you have one adjective in front of a noun, so you can have a number of adjectives. The little old man. You can have more than 2 adjectives even in front of the noun. The little poor old man. Even you can say the clever, the spelling is not correct, little poor old man. So the same rule has been applied, that if you have one adjective in front of a noun modifying the noun, so you can have a number of adjectives having the same modifying quality. The above mentioned example is of course NP plus of course NP, and you have a noun, that is, it's a noun phrase, and you can show this structure in this through this diagram. So you have NP, that is noun phrase, and at the beginning of a sentence you have a noun phrase, like the old man is my father. So the old man is a noun phrase here, and then you have other parts of the sentence, and then instead of the old man you have the little old man as a noun phrase or subject of the sentence, and you have all the other parts of the sentence. In this way you can have all these structures or phrases, and still they are meaningful, following the same rule. So you have followed, or you have got the recursion, reoccurrence of the same rule or same constituent. This is an example of a left recursion, and this type of sentence can be expanded without apparent limit. The second one is movement. There are some processes of movement of sentence constituent. For example, discontinuous constituent. He pulled down the man. So you have here the verb phrase as pull down the man, or a verb pull down. But you can have this down, discontinued from its main word, pulled. You can say he pulled the man down. Though this down is placed separately, but we know that this down refers to or is with the verb pulled. In the same way, we can say that For example, where are you coming from? Indeed, the sentence should be from where are you coming. This is called deferred preposition. The preposition is placed in a different place than where it should be. But we understand that from its deep structure, underlying structure, which one it is connected to. You can go for deletion. For example, you close the door. But in imperative sentence we say, close the door. So you have deleted the subject you. You can go for rearrangement. The egg is white. And from this assertive sentence, you can transform this sentence into an interrogative one, and you can say, is the egg white? Is the egg white is not a new structure, that is it, rather it's a transformed one from the basic or deep structure. Another important aspect of movement is passive movement. In active voice we have the subject and the verb and the object, but in passive voice the object is placed at the beginning, but still we understand, though we have the subject or the doer at the end, or even sometimes we do not have the subject at all, we understand the subject or the doer of that action of the verb. This is nothing but we are moving the components from one place to another, and we get a new one. Conjoining. Conjoining occurs when some elements are added to other similar elements by using coordinators. For example, the scene of the movie was in Dhaka. The scene of the play was in Dhaka. So you have here two sentences. These two sentences can be turned into a new sentence by the process of conjoining. The sentence of the movie, the scene of the movie and the play was in Dhaka. You have here only one component which was common to both of them, the scene of the movie and the play. Only the different components of the two sentences are put together and conjoined using a coordinator, and you can show this process through this diagram. The scene of the movie and the play was in Dhaka. Embedding. Embedding happens in the cases in which the subordinate clause is embedded in the superordinate or main clause or principal clause. For example, the boy spoke to you, the boy is my brother. So you have here two sentences, but when we combine them or when we transform them into a new sentence, into one single sentence, we can embed them. The boy spoke, who to you is my brother. So here you have the boy in both the sentences. So instead of the second boy you can use a who. Okay. In this example, the subordinate who spoke to you is embedded in the superordinate clause, the boy is my brother. So you have the main clause, the boy is my brother, but who is boy? That the boy who you spoke to. So we can say that the boy is my brother, and you can insert or embed this section into the basic or the previously previously found constituents. The boy is my brother, and you can say the boy who spoke to you is my brother. So the difference between conjoining and embedding is that in conjoining we have a compound sentence and we join two principal clauses, and they can function even separately if they are separated. Their meaning is not dependent on each other. But in embedding you have a subordinate clause and of course a principal clause, and here the meaning of the subordinate clause is dependent on the principal clause. That is why it is called embedding. So that is all about syntactic processes, and I hope that you have understood them. And if you have any question, please write in the comment box and I will try to give you feedback. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.